All right, let's jump right into the big stories shaping our world on September 17th, 2025. We're tracking some serious market anxiety, a few massive bets on our energy future, and some very high-stakes diplomacy. We're going to start with just a single number that's got everybody talking right now. $3,700. Think about it for a second. What does that number mean to you? Maybe the price of a fancy new gadget? A weekend getaway? Well, for global markets, that number is a massive, flashing red light, and it's a brand new all-time record that has investors everywhere on high alert. That's right, gold just absolutely smashed its all-time record, soaring past $3,700 an ounce. And this isn't just happening out of the blue. Global markets are holding their breath, waiting to see what the U.S. Federal Reserve is going to do next. With the dollar getting weaker, investors are flooding into the traditional safety of gold. It's a classic sign that there's a lot of economic anxiety in the air.
Now, all that anxiety, it has very real consequences. But here's the interesting thing. It's not hitting every economy the same way. Not at all. In fact, today's news reveals this really sharp contrast. It's like a tale of two very different economic futures being written at the exact same time. And here's that contrast crystal clear. On one side, you've got Japan. Their exports just dropped for the fourth straight month. Their powerhouse auto industry is getting hammered by high tariffs. That's a story of immediate, right-now economic pain. But then you look over at Australia, and they're looking way past the current turbulence. They're making a huge long-term bet, sinking over $700 million into their biofuel industry.
So what exactly are these biofuels that Australia is betting the farm on? Well, in a nutshell, they're clean fuels made from renewable stuff, things like biodiesel for trucks or sustainable fuel for airplanes. And this really is the key takeaway. While one major economy is struggling to protect its traditional industries today, another is spending big to build the clean energy economy of tomorrow.
Okay, so let's shift gears from trade to diplomacy. And you know what? We're seeing that exact same split, a divide between the super modern and the really traditional. Two major international agreements are making headlines, and they could not be more different.
A win-win situation. That is the official phrase coming out of Beijing today. And believe me, those words were chosen very, very carefully. They describe a landmark deal that's been years in the making, finalized in Madrid, all about the fate of one of the world's most influential and controversial tech platforms.
The story here is the Madrid TikTok deal. But let's be clear, this is about way more than a social media app. This is a high-stakes negotiation over technology, data, and intellectual property. The agreement sets up a new review process for tech exports, making sure it lines up with international IP laws. This right here is what 21st century digital diplomacy looks like.
And at the very same time that digital deal is being ironed out, we have a much more traditional form of international relations playing out. President Donald Trump has just landed in the UK for his second state visit, and it comes with all the pomp and ceremony you'd expect.
But look, behind all the handshakes and the fancy dinners, this visit has some very clear economic goals. The core objectives here are to lay the groundwork for future investment deals and, of course, to deepen business cooperation between these two longtime allies. So, we've covered the economy, we've covered diplomacy, but underneath all of that, the strategic plates of global security are always shifting. Our final headline today takes us to the Pacific, where new alliances are being forged to navigate a landscape that's changing, well, really, really fast.
The key here is really in the details. Australia and Papua New Guinea just signed a new defense communique. That's an important step forward. But, and this is the critical part, it is not the formal, full-blown mutual defense treaty they've been working toward. That is still delayed. So, it's a sign of progress for sure, but it also shows you just how complex it is to lock in these critical security pacts.
So you have to ask, why now? This communique is a direct signal of the rising security concerns that are shared by nations all across the Pacific. It's a strategic move, plain and simple, meant to project solidarity and a shared commitment to keeping the region stable.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Gold prices, trade figures, tech deals, security packs. It can feel like a bunch of separate, disconnected stories. But let's try to connect the dots and see what kind of picture emerges from this one single day in the news.
So, if you were to boil down the global mood on September 17th, it really comes down to three clear themes. First, there is this widespread economic anxiety, and you see that perfectly in the record gold price. Second, we're seeing these bold strategic bets on the future, like Australia's huge investment in biofuels.
And third, there's this constant redrawing of the map through shifting alliances, both economic and military. It's this weird mix, right? A day of real caution mixed with incredible long-term ambition, of modern problems being met with both modern and traditional solutions. Which leaves us with this one final thought. You've got anxious markets, new energy bets, and shifting alliances all happening at once. What does just one day's news really tell us about the direction we're all headed for the next decade?